Good morning and welcome everybody. Just wait for more people to jump on. Again, as always, if you're on this early, you are watching the replay, so let me know where you're from. Let's do something a little bit different today. Tell me, what type of center do you have? Do you have a center? Are you an in-home provider? Do you have a small center, large center? How many children are you licensed for? Just let me know a little bit about you and your childcare center. Hope everybody's having a good Monday. Here in Northern Nevada, it's starting to get cold. I'm going to miss the summer. I know a lot of you guys love fall, but I will miss the summer. In case we haven't met or you haven't been watching me, let me introduce myself. My name is Evelyn Knight. I am the host of the Childcare Business Coach podcast. I am the founder and CEO of Childcare Business Professionals, which is a company that helps childcare owners and directors learn how to successfully run a childcare center. I really help you to focus on the business side of things and learn how to become a business owner. A lot of us don't know business when we become owners and directors, and we just really struggle with that end. So I see so many centers struggling financially and just with operations, don't know how to manage employees, and really just don't know how to have a successful business. So that is something I really do have a passion for helping people with. I am also a childcare center owner myself. So I was a director for years. I've done it all. And so I have that relatability. I know what it's like. I'm running a center too through COVID. Well, I'm co-running, I should say. My director does most of it now. I'm more behind the scenes. Gosh, it's almost been a couple years at this point. I decided I wanted to be just the owner. I decided to separate the roles, which is actually very important. Another big issue I see, a big mistake I see owners making, they don't differentiate the role between owner and director. And even when I was owner and director, I still had to know which hat I was wearing all the time. Hi, Sherry. I see you just hopped on. It's so good to see you. We have got to talk and get together one day. We have not gotten together in forever. So it's good to see you. I hope you guys are doing great. So my Mindset Monday, I really like to focus on helping you get through the week, which is why we do this Monday mornings. And I love the interactions. So please let me know if you have any questions or if you have comments. I don't always see the comments. I don't know what it is, but sometimes I get to see them all and sometimes I can't, and today I don't think I can. So if you're leaving comments, I promise I'll go through after and answer questions. I'll go through the feed, answer questions, interact with you guys. If you watch on the replay, I do watch the video, the comments later throughout the week in case there's any interactions. And I know a lot of you message me throughout the week, so feel free to do that if you have any questions about what we talk about, or questions in general. I get lots of you guys who reach out to me throughout the week, so feel free. So today, I was really thinking about what I see a lot of struggles with. And as I'm going through Facebook pages or the questions you guys send me, there's really one overarching theme that I see a lot of. And whether you realize it or not, one of the biggest problems and the biggest energy drains and biggest stressors that each and every one of us has is that we try to do everything ourselves. We try to wear all the hats, right? And we have issues with really trusting our staff and others to wear some of the hats. So this is a topic I will probably come back to over and over and over again because it's so very important, and I can pretty much guarantee you if you're feeling drained, overwhelmed, just exhausted and ready to quit, if you're working 60 hours a week, even 50 hours a week at your center, it's because you do not know how to truly delegate. And I mean true delegation, not assigning tasks. What I see when people tell me that they delegate is what I actually see is assigning tasks, where you basically tell somebody, you do this, you do that, you do this. But there's a key component missing there. And the reason that really causes you stress in delegation, and actually for so many of you, delegation actually creates more work. And I'm sure a lot of you are thinking like, well, I can't delegate because they just don't know how to do this, they don't know, and I might as well do it myself because it saves me time when I do it myself. It just saves me energy and I can just get it done. The problem with that is that you're assigning tasks, you're not truly delegating. When you truly delegate, you're empowering your staff. You are giving them ownership of a task, right? And that can be hard on us. I'll tell you, I'm the first to tell you. And Brandy, my director, who was my assistant for 10 years before she became director, will tell you that is something I'm very bad at, that I have to be very intentional about delegating and giving ownership. Because my childcare center is my baby, right? My businesses, it's like raising a child. You develop it, and it's so hard. Just like taking your child to college. So hard to give that baby into someone else's hands. I can tell you, taking my oldest son, when I had to drop him off at his university for the first time, it was the hardest thing I have ever done in my life. Dropping my son off and having to drive away from that university that was 9 hours from my house was by far the hardest thing I've ever done, driving away from him. And a lot of times, delegating in our centers can feel very similar. It might not be as traumatic, but it's similar because, you know, even if you're a director, you don't have to be an owner, but you've developed this thing and you see it running every single day and it's got this flow, and now you have to give that flow to somebody else. And not the entire thing, just the different small processes, right? You're giving just different processes over to somebody else. But I can tell you that when you learn to let it go, it will just blossom and bloom. Your team, every person on your team has something that makes them better than you. And I'm going to repeat that because this is hard for our egos to swallow a lot of times. But every person on our team has something that makes them better than you, right? And that's what we want, you guys. We can't be everything. We can't be it all. Even though we try, don't we? We try. We try very hard. I know I do. I try hard to be it all. But when we do that, we end up running ourselves into a frenzy and we become exhausted. So it's important to surround yourself and to create your team of people who are better at certain aspects than you are. So, for example, I use the example all the time, and where I've seen Brandy just flourish within the classrooms is she is amazing at classroom management. She's amazing at going in and making sure that my classrooms at our center are just 5-star quality, right? Which is why I do have a 5-star center. And she is really great at going into every single classroom. She coaches every week. She does observations and coaching every week. Every one of my staff members gets a personal coaching touch with Brandy every single month. And keep in mind, I have a large childcare center, and she gets this done. She has great time management skills. And I know a lot of owners and directors are thinking, oh, I just don't have time for that, but I can tell you, you do. You have time. It's just lack of time management. Absolutely lack of time management. That makes you think you don't have time. So I run 2 businesses. I do a lot. My mom and I actually had a conversation yesterday, and she was listing all these things I do. She's like, oh my gosh, it's like you have 4 full-time jobs. How do you have time? Because I work out every day, twice a day. She's like, how do you have time to work out every day if it's like you have 4 full-time jobs? And I was explaining to her, I compartmentalize my day. My time management is very, very compartmentalized. And so I get it all done by the end of the week, and I still take a day or 2 off. So it's really just comes down to how are you managing your time? Are you teaching people to respect your time? But that is a totally different subject. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. If you guys are interested in that, I do have a podcast episode on time management. I have a video I've done on time management. You can go through my old videos. You can listen to my podcast. And I go through a brief overview on how I manage my time so that I can juggle owning a couple businesses, having a podcast, caring for my family, and everything that I do. So, and I also teach it in my membership. My members I have a whole unit that is just dedicated to managing time, and I help you find what are your time drains, what should you take off, and how do you fix that. That's something I do help my members and the people I coach with. So anyway, getting back to delegation, that true delegation, you're really giving things up, and it isn't something that comes natural to me. So it's something I've really had to work on, and I've had to develop. And it took me 10 years to delegate Brandy taking over my center, which I did slowly, but it really does. When you surround yourself with those people that are better, you find their strengths, right? And then you put them in that role. So you really have to observe your people. And there's a big difference in delegation, and what you really need to understand and where you need to shift your mindset is in the fact that as an owner, especially, you need to be working on your business, not in your business. So again, I'm going to repeat that. If you're taking notes, this is something you want to write down. You want to be working on your business, not in your business. That means you should not be doing the tactical tasks such as processing billing, answering telephones. You shouldn't be, writing curriculum. You need to be working on the business, the overall arching picture, right? And the rest of that stuff needs to be delegated out. And this is something like, if this is something you struggle with figuring out, like, well, what should I be doing? Again, that's something I help people in my membership with. We figure out, like, what does that mean? What is tactical? What should be delegated out? What should I keep on my plate? There's a very specific form that I help people go through to figure that one out. But really think about things. What is revenue generating? What is going to help your center not only become more profitable, right, but be just the reputation, just better on everything? Because your reputation, your enrollment, retention, all of that is going to make you more profitable in the long run. Okay, so you need to look at those things. And a couple of those things are like quality, making sure you have a good quality center. And it's got to be a research-based quality. Very important. I cannot stress that enough. Quality cannot be what your opinion of quality is, because there is a lot of misinformation out there on what quality is, right? And there's what I like to call parent pleasers, which commercialization of our industry has convinced a lot of people that certain things are high quality, which are not. So those I call parent pleasers. And if you're filling your center with parent pleasers, you're probably going to have a lot of behavior problems. You're probably going to have a lot of burnt out teachers. And that's where you're going to lose and not be able to retain your children that are enrolling, and you won't be able to retain your staff because you're focused on these things that sell instead of focusing on what true quality is. And it's really hard in our industry because we start thinking that we have to do these things that sell because that's what get the parents in. But in reality, that's really, it might get them in initially, but it's not helping you with your retention. And so in reality, when you really focus on research-based quality, the children in your center are learning more, they're happier, their staff is happier, and then suddenly word of mouth just starts going crazy. And suddenly, next thing you know, you've got this wait list. So I know I made the transition, and it was a game changer for my business. Not only does all of that happen, but you can also raise your rates, right? You can actually make your rates reflect the quality that you're putting out there in the world. So very important, research-based quality. And maybe I'll do a session for you guys on research-based quality one day. What does that mean? What does it look like? Just really focusing on that, because that is a game changer for your center. So with the delegation, finding those areas that, like Brandy is excellent at implementing research-based quality and making sure that my center maintains research-based quality, because she is so good at being in the classroom, overseeing that, guiding my staff, guiding them to be their best. She's great at, that inspirational piece. And so that is something I had to delegate to her because I wasn't good. I'm a good trainer, but when it came to going into the classrooms and really coaching, I wasn't as good at that as she is. So that's an example of where you need to find where your staff is better than you, right? Another good example is that person who is so good at just thoughtful, remembering everybody, really organized, remembers dates well. I'm horrible at remembering dates. So I would forget, without my calendar, I will never remember anniversaries, birthdays, stuff like that. my husband and I have been together for almost 29 years, and I forget my anniversary. It's just how I am. Okay, so I have to have a calendar for everything. I have to just be on top of things. So I delegated things like anniversaries, birthdays, different things like that to a different staff member who's really thoughtful and good at that. And that was a teacher. So keep in mind when you're delegating, it doesn't have to be just your assistant director, your director, whoever that is. Find what your teachers are really great at. Do you have a teacher that's fantastic at bulletin boards? Then make them in charge of the seasonal parent board, for example, right? If they make an amazing, you have to empower them for things like that. I have a teacher who is very, she is really efficient at doing certain things, so we let her do the grocery list every week. She gets to, she's always telling us, okay, you guys are out of paint, we're out of this, we're out of that. Okay, great. You're good at this. You're in charge of making sure that our supply list is in order. So those are like the little things that you can look at to delegate. What I want you guys to look at is, are you really just putting Band-Aids over the problems in your center because you are trying to do it all? Ask yourself that question. Am I trying to do so much on my own that I'm putting Band-Aids on everything because I can't do it all? If you're putting Band-Aids on everything because you can't do it all, then you need to automate and you need to delegate. In order to properly delegate, you need to come up with step-by-step processes, right? And you need to really document these processes. And then you need to give them over. Documenting processes, I know it sounds hard, but it's not as bad as you think. When I do it, I literally record myself doing things, and then I can just give that recording off to somebody else so they can watch it over and over and over again. So go through the process, record yourself doing it. You do have to talk to yourself while you're doing it. There's several different techniques that I teach my members on how to do it, whatever suits you best. But the way I do it is I'll just record myself doing something. Is it awkward at first? Yeah, it's awkward. I didn't like it at first, but you get used to it, and it'll end up saving you hours and hours worth of training. Because when you do it that way, people can just watch the video over and over again until they learn how to do it. So, but in order to do that, you have to have the step-by-step. So as you're doing it, you literally will go through and just like, okay, I'm going to start with, since I do like audio recording, like this is how I'm going to start, this is not, and then just go from there. I also have them take notes. So the notes can become that written portion of it, right? And then a lot of times I will have those notes typed up into formal instructions. So just watch how you do it. You can't just tell somebody, go do this. You've got to make sure your expectations are clear. You have to make sure they know exactly the process and how it's done. When it comes to things like, let's say the bulletin board, those you're not going to have a process on because you want them to take ownership, right? So and even with coaching for Brandy, I wanted her to take ownership of being the director. So I didn't tell her, this is how you have to do it. I basically told her, these are my expectations. I want monthly observations of every single classroom. And I want a teacher touch point by the end of the month with every single teacher. Even if it's 15 minutes, you have to have a personal, one-on-one coaching conversation with them every month, and you have to have every classroom and every teacher observed by the end of the month, every month. And then I let her go with that. I wanted her to take ownership of it, right? So I told her, these are my expectations, and she also knows what to look for. I mean, she has a form of, these are the areas that you need to look for, right? Just the overall classroom management. So she has a checklist of things that she needs to maintain and look for, but I'm not telling her, this is the formal observation that you have to do. You need to fill out this form every single time. You need to give me this report. You need to file, I basically just said, these are things that need to be maintained. This is what I want it completed, and do what you need to do. So she has a very clear view of my expectation of her monthly observations and teacher meetings, but I really let her develop the system in which she does it with. So that's where I'm giving her ownership of that task, right? I've really given her ownership. Same thing with my van runs. The person that we have in charge of van runs, she's at the beginning of the school year. We do a van run training. I give them my overall, these are my expectations. This is how we do things. These are my general rules. Now go create the schedule. Go, do what you're going to do. So the person in charge of that has ownership and they take pride in their work. You want to just let them feel and empower them to know that I trust you. You are a capable, smart person, and I trust you to take on this task because I know that you, as this capable individual, will do it successfully. So something to keep in mind, just really helping them to be successful and trusting them, but make sure that when you are assigning tasks, you're assigning the right person to the right task, okay? You're not going to have your super, super shy teacher be your parent liaison, right? That person should not be assigned as the parent liaison who's doing personal touch points with the parents, or who is figuring out whatever your monthly personal touch point with parents, whether like let's say you do donuts in the morning, something like a commingling session in the morning. Somebody who's super shy and introverted, that's not a good task for them, because they're going to make sure that they're picking tasks that don't take personal conversations, right? Or that personal touch. They're going to be like, oh, I'm going to email, I'm going to post on Facebook, I'm going to do stuff that doesn't take that personal touch. So if you're going to assign like a parent liaison who is making sure that you have that personal connection, you want it to be somebody who's more outgoing, who's more extroverted, who, is just really, find that teacher that you see who connects really well with their parents in a professional manner, and then you make them the parent liaison. Same thing with your teacher representative. Like my center has a teacher representative who basically, she's teacher liaison, who if one of the staff members doesn't feel comfortable going to management, they can go to her, and then she comes to us anonymously, right? Well, that wouldn't work if this was an off-putting staff member who was, again, very introverted, who didn't go out and get to know all the teachers, who didn't, build like that relationship, and that just wouldn't work. So you have to have that outgoing teacher who's always looking to be helpful, who, just has a great relationship with the rest of the staff, and who's always, what I really looked at is, okay, which one is always ready to step in and help each other? Like, she's lifting them up, always there to help. That's the one that you want to focus on for something like that. So putting them in the right box is very, very important. This isn't something you can just like decide, okay, you're going to do this, you can't just assign the tasks randomly. You have to fit it with personality. Look at where that person shines. And when you're doing interviews, also, I prefer recruiting to interview. So if you're recruiting, you're looking for those personality traits too, that ooh, that's a weakness of mine. That person would be great on my team, because for me, I am very disorganized, right? I call it my organized chaos. So I need to bring people around me that seem very efficient and very organized. So like our assistant director, Alana is very organized and very efficient, and she'll come behind me and just keep me on top of organization. And that's something I can really delegate to her, is to make sure that, my processes and different things. And I forget little things like, it's silliest things like scanning my bills and sending them in. She's so on top of that kind of stuff. So she scans my bills and sends them into my bookkeeper, right? That's one of her tasks, because I know that's where she shines, that organization piece. She's also excellent with customer relations. So her front desk is front and center, first person the parents see, because she's so warm, so welcoming. Everybody just loves her, and she builds instant friendships and relationships. So her desk is the first one you're going to walk by because of that friendly nature that she has. So when you really, really do a good job at delegating, you're empowering other people. You're taking things off your plate. You're really just making your center a better place. It's almost like creating a puzzle, right? Every facet of your center is like a puzzle piece. You're finding that right person with the right strength to fill those pieces. And then in that sense, you're taking that off your plate, and you're able to take that hat off. I think when you are just assigning tasks, you end up creating so much more work for yourself, because just that assigning of tasks ends up making you have to go back and double check it all the time. You're watching that, right? You're constantly having to go behind the people that are doing these tasks and do cleanup work, or you have to monitor, and you're wasting so much time monitoring and cleaning up that you might as well have done it yourself. So that's why you want to match the right people. That's also why you want to have documented step-by-step procedures, and you want to have very clear expectations. So again, you want to choose the right person, have documented step-by-step processes, which there's several ways you can do it. When I say documented, it doesn't have to be, there should be written, but there's plenty of ways to do written instructions without you having to write them, okay? And there's also, you have to make sure that your expectations, the end results, are very, very clear. I actually am going to add a fourth step to that. You also have to let go. One of my biggest issues is that when the different things I delegate, I will come in and say, ooh, that's not, I'll think to myself, I won't say it, but I will think to myself, that is not how I would have done that. And then I have to tell myself to stop. The end result is the same. It doesn't matter, right? That may not be how I approached that situation, but the result did not change. We still enrolled these children. We still have a wait list of over 300 children. If the result is the same, then the process doesn't matter. I have to let that go. And that can be hard sometimes, right? So even if they follow your process, but they didn't do it exactly how you would have done it, that can be really hard on us sometimes. I'm like, oh, that's not how I would have done that. Or let's say, for example, a parent comes in for a tour, and the person who does the tour didn't do it exactly how you would have done the tour, even though, let's say, like, I have an overview of how a flow for a tour, but let's say they followed your flow, but they still didn't say the things you would have said or showed the things you would have showed. One of the things I do in my tours, I point out different elements in my classroom. Like, I love pointing out the classroom in action and giving examples of how the children are learning in the moment, right? Like, especially through play, just because that is the best way for children to learn. I will find children at play, something they're learning, and educate the parents on, do you see what that child is doing? Let me tell you what they're learning about, and just really building on that, right? And I do train my girls to do the same thing. So, and that really shows the parents that, yeah, if you go to a center that they're doing photocopied sheets and that's how the children are learning, they're not really learning. But when they're playing, they're really learning. So when my girls are touring, they might pick something different, right? I might have picked a child that is playing in blocks, building a city, and then I'll go in there and show them how that is building their literacy skills, math skills, science skills. Like, I'll just really point out how so many different realms of development are happening because the child's building a city in blocks. But one of my staff members might go in and actually go over to the water table and show how the water table is building different things, right? It's like all those different realms of development. And I might think to myself, ooh, that's not what I would show. That went over there. That's such a great opportunity. They're really learning over there. But it doesn't matter, right? I mean, they're learning everywhere in the classroom. So even if they don't choose what I would have chosen, it doesn't make it wrong. It just makes it different. And that's where we as leaders have to let it go. As long as the end result's the same, we have to let it go. Now, if they're completely messing up, then yes, we need to step in. But we really do have to let it go. So that is pretty much what I have for you guys today. I hope that you really take that and learn how to truly delegate. I do have a podcast episode on delegation also that you can listen to on the podcast, and I'll link the podcast to the notes here in the comments. And again, you guys, I am so sorry if I can't see your comments. I will go back and answer any questions, interact with you guys. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I hope everybody's ready for November. It's right around the corner, isn't it? Have a great week, and I hope everybody has a great Halloween. Bye.